Almost a decade has passed since we last played a new Star Fox game. That game, Star Fox Zero, was not met with the warmest reception thanks to its forced integration of the Wii U gamepad and recycling of the same old story. Truthfully speaking, I actually didn't completely hate that game, but that's a story for another day. Star Fox has had a tumultuous history to say the least, but the complete lack of recent entries has left fans, myself included, longing for some new content. So, Ben Hickling decided to take matters into his own hands with Ex-Zodiac, an awesome spiritual successor to the on-rails Star Fox games of days past. To me, this game feels like a hybrid of the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64, taking the more retro, polygonal aesthetics of the SNES game and combining them with the snappier gameplay of 64, and let me tell you, boy does it feel great. Flying around, blasting through waves of enemies with your lasers, blowing stuff up with your bombs, barrel rolling and weaving through attacks. This is classic Star Fox gameplay at its finest. It doesn't just feel great though, it looks great too. I love the kind of vaporwave art style here. There are some gorgeous looking levels in this game with some nice variety in the theming. They're all super visually distinct with vastly differing colour palettes. I particularly like the vibe of the Oasis level. I don't know what it is, but I'm a big fan of the way this water looks. Something about the way it moves and reflects is really pretty to me. The desert level is pretty rad as well, and has these Moyai statue enemies and an absolute banger of a theme to go along with it. The music, composed by pastt, is fantastic in general and has some very catchy chiptune tracks which you'll be hearing throughout this video. Now, when I first picked up this game, it took me a second to get back into the swing of things, but after a little bit of playing and messing around with the controls, which are fully remappable by the way, including having the ability to invert the Y-axis, everything started to come back to me. As someone who played a ton of Star Fox 64 as a kid, it was virtually seamless for me to transition over to this game, but even if you're not someone who's dabbled in the series before, I can still see it being very easy to pick up and play. There are a few subtle additions to the old mechanics too that I think make an undeniably positive difference. One of the first things I noticed is that you can lock onto multiple enemies at once and fire homing missiles at them simultaneously. You start off with the ability to fire 3 missiles, but you can upgrade this to fire even more at once in the same way that you'd upgrade your lasers or pick up bombs. It's a great addition and just feels so natural. The gameplay is clearly strong, and that's only bolstered by how stellar the missions are. They're all so well crafted, with unique patterns of enemies and obstacles to keep you on your toes. The main campaign has 3 different types of levels. You've got the classic on-rails flight missions, which make up the bulk of the levels and are like the R-Wing stages from the classic games. Then you have the ones that take place in all-range mode. There's one kind of akin to Sector Z from Star Fox 64 where you have to protect one of your cannons while waves of enemies come to attack it, and another where you have to take down an enemy base. I like these, although this is one area that I feel the game could benefit from more movement options like somersaults and U-turns, as it can be tricky to shake an enemy from behind you during a dogfight. Then there's the third level type, which is actually unique to this game. You see, Star Fox 64 had land-based stages in the form of the Landmaster missions like Titania and Macbeth. In Exodiac, there are also land-based levels, but rather than piloting a tank, you instead ride a motorcycle. Dude, these levels are insane. I love how this thing controls and how fast-paced it feels. Even though you can't fly, you still have so much mobility with this thing, as you can quickly weave from side to side and barrel roll to your heart's content. It's such a blast, and I think that's also helped by how sick the 2 stages that the motorcycle features in are. On one of them, you're hurtling down an unfinished motorway in a space city, which in itself is such an awesome concept for a level, and as you're speeding down the road, you have to escape from and shoot down the space police. Really exhilarating time. The other level that uses the motorcycle is the most recent one added to the game, Mirage. This one goes for a western theme complete with robot cowboys and horses. Again, knocked it out of the park with the theming. In this one, you're chasing down a train much like in Macbeth and have to confront the driver at the end of it. These 3 mission types help to spice things up, and each one requires a slightly different gameplay style. The game definitely incentivizes you to play better and improve as well. For example, you'll often get rewarded with different upgrades and supplies for any pretty smooth flying that you do. There's also a point scoring system which makes you want to try and shoot for the highest scores that you can. It works pretty interestingly in this game as there's actually a combo mechanic. Killing enemies in quick succession will add to your combo, and the points that you get will increase exponentially as your combo goes up. I'm not the best at this type of thing. I had a hard time unlocking the medals in Star Fox 64, but despite that, I did find myself coming back to replay quite a few of the stages to try and get more points. The most satisfying part of it all is the ranking system, which is a wonderful evolution of the old scoreboard. Depending on how many points you rack up, how many of the enemies you're able to take down, how little damage you take, and how quickly you take down the boss, you're given a letter rank from D to S. I don't think I'm competent enough to S rank every mission, but I did manage to do a couple of them once I found my groove, which was a good feeling. As of right now, there are 11 stages, but more are planned for the full release of the game. You tackle them in a linear fashion, but again, I believe in future, branching paths are on the cards, which should go a long way in making this game even more replayable than it already is. You can sort of see how it's going to be implemented, like with the Sector Z style level I mentioned earlier, having two different endings depending on whether you're able to defend the cannon for long enough to allow it to fire or not. If you do, then you're able to blow up the asteroid that's headed your way, but if not, it crashes into you instead. Now, those are the main levels, but there are also some bonus ones too. You unlock these by finding these hidden data chips in certain missions by shooting down specific enemies. Once you finish the stage, you get transported to a Space Harrier style section. These take place in these surreal, kinda trippy environments. Like, there is some weird stuff here. I mean, one of the bosses is this sentient egg with a face on it, which is kind of incredible. You're still on rails, but since you can just hold the fire button down infinitely, there's a greater emphasis on destroying the environment, but you do have to be careful as bumping into walls or obstacles damages you here. I can't lie, I wasn't the best at these since I'm not as familiar with the game that they were inspired by, but I still had fun with them. Outside of the levels, another thing I really dig about Ex-Zodiac is its cast of characters. You play as Pilot Q, with help from her friend and teammate Miko. Interestingly enough, they're both monkeys. That's right, the monkeys are the good guys this time around. Oh, how the tables have turned. I like these guys a lot, and as you'd expect, they have their banter over the transmissions too. The bosses are all different kinds of animals, like snakes, pigs, and even a chicken who gets fried to death in the fire level and sent off with a KFC reference. Absolutely brutal. These guys are all super cocky and arrogant in their dialogue in the same way that the Star Fox 64 bosses were, so it's fun to humble them by shooting their conveniently placed, glowing weak spots. One of them reminded me a lot of Andros, and when I tell you that the muscle memory kicked in, I mean it. That guy did not stand a chance. There also seems to be this mysterious enemy character who appears at the end of one of the missions. To my knowledge, they only show up once, but I can definitely see this building up to a Star Wolf style rivalry, which is a dynamic that I'm a big fan of. All the characters speak in this Lilatian-esque gibberish language, but the only thing I will say is that when I was playing through the levels, I was pretty locked in and focused on the gameplay, so I didn't always have time to read the text, and it would often disappear before I had the chance. I believe there may be plans to incorporate voice acting at some point down the line though, so hopefully my slow reading and inability to multitask won't be an issue. So overall, I had a great time playing Ex-Zodiac. It really scratched that Star Fox itch for me, and is one of the best spiritual successors to the series that I've ever played. It's very reminiscent of those old games, and yet still adds enough flair to stand on its own two legs. For a game that's in early access, it's very well polished, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here, and how it will look once it's finished. The prospect of branching paths and more levels is incredibly exciting, as each one that's currently in the game is packed with quality. If you're a fan of the old Star Fox games, I highly recommend checking Ex-Zodiac out or adding it to your Steam wishlist. Ben Hickling has done what Nintendo hasn't done? Yeah, sorry, that didn't really work.